In today's video, I'm going to talk about the newly revealed Marvel Secret Lairs that were revealed at the New York Comic Con. All of the face commanders barring Storm were leaked previous to this, but I'm going to go through all of them, talking about what they do and their mechanical identity and how I feel about them. I'll talk about the includes in the Secret Lairs as well, good stuff, bad stuff, mainly just good stuff if I'm honest. And then in the second half of this video, I'm going to talk a bit about pricing and how there's a bad taste in my mouth about this particular integration and crossover, just simply in how good of a value proposition it is for the end audience when you compare it to the stuff we've had before, like pre-cons and similar. All that and more in today's video. Bit of a low effort video today because I'm just quickly making this on the weekend. I don't like to work on weekends if I can help it, spend time with the family. So sorry for the minimal edits. And if you're looking to pick up a single product or sealed product, check out CoolStuffInc.com if you're in the North Americas, and you can use the code KENOBI, check out to get 5% off your order. It helps to support the show and you get one of these Orc Army tokens. Oh yes. There are 5 Secret Lairs. They're going to be around £40 or dollars. That's right, it just directly translates over here, or 50 for the foils. I'll talk more on that pricing in a moment. The first one we're going to look at is T'Challa himself, the Black Panther. Black Panther is a 2-mana legendary human noble hero with first strike, and it's a 2/2. It says whenever Black Panther or another creature you control enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target land you control. And then for 3 mana, you can move all +1/+1 counters from target land you control onto target creature. If one or more +1/+1 counters are moved in this way, you gain that much life and draw a card. Pretty strong and interesting ability. It's going to draw you cards and keep your life total high. And it triggers on itself, so you're getting a counter immediately upon playing it, even if your commander gets killed. Of course, without access to your commander, you're going to struggle to move those counters around, and because we haven't got a pre-con deck to build out of with this, it's not giving you a lot of support for moving those counters around, so you really need access to your commander to do this. From a thematic perspective, I do get the green-white community and cultural element of Black Panther here, being that Wakanda is such an important part of the character's identity. I'm not so sure why the Black Panther himself, the king of Wakanda, will be the one doing the mining. Bit of a weird inconsistency there, but I still like the fact that they're hearkening to how important vibranium is and the resources within Wakanda are to Black Panther as a character. In the Secret Lair, we do get a reprint of Primal Vigor to help with the counter theme, Heroic Intervention as well. Both of these are very strong reprints. Both of them are, well, Primal Vigor is a bit shy of $10 now, but Heroic Intervention is a $10 card, so pretty strong reprints there. Khan's Bastion gets reprinted in every other Commander product, so it's a pretty affordable card right now, but a good synergistic card for the +1/+1 counters, and shows a Wakandan Skyscraper too. It's good to get some land here if we're going to focus on that part of the character's identity. And Secure the Waste allows you to generate a load of warriors, getting those ETB triggers, as well as giving us some Wakandan warriors to look at. The Heroic Intervention might have my favorite art of the entire drop, with Black Panther just like absolutely smashing the shit out of Claw here. This is the comic book accurate Claw. It is fantastic. So overall, this Secret Lair is pretty decent. My favorite thing about the Black Panther card, I guess, is that it allows you to move all counters from a land you control to target creature, which is beyond the +1/+1s. So although he himself generates +1/+1 counters onto the land, if you can get indestructible counters or similar things onto lands through weird tricksy stuff, I haven't really dug deep for it, you can move those around too. I'm not really excited to build him, but I do like the look of the lair. Some good value too. Next up, we have Captain America, the First Avenger, a 3-mana 4/4 human soldier hero. He has throw and catch. For throw, it's 3 mana unattached equipment from Captain America. He deals damage equal to that equipment's mana value divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets as the shield bounces around. At the beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to Captain America, where he grabs hold of the shield again. Our 4 cards included with him are Captain America's Aid, which shows him and the Falcon holding the shield in the Captain America colors. It's a Sagada's Aid that allows you to equip equipments for free. Flawless Maneuver is the 3-mana free white spell from, I forget which set it was, Commander Legends 1. Either way, your creatures gain indestructible to end a turn. It's free if you control your commander. In the Trenches is a card that I don't think I've seen before. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and 6 mana exile target non-land opponent you don't control until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery and only once. References his Silver Age depictions with the original Human Torch and Namor and Bucky. Look out, Axis, here we come. The Invaders Battle Cry, which is interesting because this might be the first Magic the Gathering card to reference directly the axis of evil and the fight against the Nazis during World War II. That's just an interesting point. And then Shield of War and Peace is a 3-mana reskin of Sword of War and Peace, which is pretty neat. I think of all the swords and equipment that you could have made Cap's shield, I think Sword of War and Peace is kind of wonderful, if I'm honest. The interesting thing about all of these cards is some non-synergy here. Shield of War and Peace gives protection from white. So whilst Captain America is equipped with his shield, Sagada's aid cannot target him. Whenever an equipment you control enters, you may attach it to target creature you control is a trigger of Sagada's aid itself, which can't target Cap while he's holding his shield, which is kind of weird. I'm thinking of building Cap. I've always enjoyed Voltron strategies, but never really seen a modern Voltron commander that I like more than classic Rafik. Cap being a weird card that can throw the equipment around to do damage and also free equips as well gives you two interesting angles to take this on. Of course, the more expensive the equipment that you attach to him, a Mage Bane armor, for example, for a good trigger, or the new Excalibur from Assassin's Creed to give you a huge damage output from his first ability is pretty dope. The other cool thing about Cap is if we use Bludgeon Brawl, we can equip all sorts of things to Captain America and throw them around. If we sprinkle a Swift reconfiguration into the mix, or a Mycosynth Lattice as well, as a bit of redundancy, we can start equipping random creatures to Captain America. He can throw anything you can think of. A god, a badger, a lion, a worm spiraling machinin. We can get real cute with it. The other thing that's interesting is the red, white, and blue here. Usually the mana costs up here, the colored mana costs, would follow the Wooburg order of white, blue, black, red, green. In this case, it's red, white, and blue because it's the colors of America, the red, white, and blue, which I think is just a really cute way of adding a bit more flavor to Captain America. The other lead Avenger is here with Iron Man, Titan of Innovation, a 5-mana human hero 4/4 flying with haste. Whenever Iron Man attacks, create a treasure token, and then you may sacrifice a non-creature artifact. If you do, search your library for an artifact card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed artifact's mana value and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It is a birthing pod, but for artifacts. Key, though, is that the artifact coming to play does come into play tapped. On top of all that, we got a unique treasure token showing off his mask. We got a Galvanic Blast showing off his Iron Legion, like using their repulsors. We got Commander's Plate being his full suit of, I don't know what mark this is. It's one of the more modern armors, right? A Soul Ring being his arc reactor itself, and then the Inventor's Fair being the Stark Expo. All of these are pretty sweet. Galvanic Blast feels, it's thematically on point, but it feels disappointing compared to the rest of it, if I'm honest. Commander's Plate is a huge reprint, being at like around $30 right now, and a themed Soul Ring that fits your commander exactly is very sweet. As for the card's mechanical identity, 5-mana 4/4 flying with haste, so it's going to be impactful the turn you play unless someone's sandbagging some removal, and it being a an artifact toolbox, dig deep and find the exact thing you need or for value, is pretty fun. I do like the artifact, or any sort of birthing pod effect for that matter. I just think it allows you to play all sorts of weird stuff in your deck. If we're honest, what it'll probably do is do some sort of combo-y stuff, although on the upside, then making it an attack trigger does push you towards value and toolbox as opposed to combo. If he tapped to do this, then we probably would have similar problems that we have with Birthing Pod, where you'd go get things that untap it and then start to do more tapping and sacking and so on. I don't feel like building Iron Man straight away, but he's probably my third favourite of the lot behind Cap and another one we're coming to in a moment. Wolverine, the best there is, a 3-mana 2/2 mutant berserk hero with double all damage Wolverine would deal. At the beginning of each end step, if Wolverine was dealt damage to another creature this turn, put a +1/+1 encounter on him, and 2 mana to regenerate Wolverine. I actually think this is my least favourite of the mechanical ones. I just don't think this shows off quite how persistent Wolverine is in the comics in terms of just not dying. This guy gets flown into the sun at one point and regenerates from singular bits of tissue floating in space. He's had his body reduced to just a skull and he's grown back from that. It depends on the writer, obviously, but he is basically unstoppable if given enough time. I don't think 2 mana regenerate really does that for me. I would have loved it if he just regenerated at all times. He would be damaged to the point of dying. If he would be destroyed, regenerate him instead or something. The beginning of each end step, him growing, find damaging other creatures, is interesting because it's not combat damage. So if you can get Wolverine to fight, if you can get him to Chandra's Ignition, if you can get him to ping off of a Viridian Longbow or similar, he will grow bigger and bigger each end step. So I think there's a fun build around there. So I don't think he's a bad commander to build around. I just wish his regeneration was a bit stronger so he felt like actual Wolverine. The includes here are pretty solid again. Rite of Passage is a sweet card for the deck whenever creatures dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Pretty good if you're going to be able to like ping your own stuff with your pingers if there's not other creatures around to ping with them. The card is like $5 at the moment. That's because it hasn't had a reprint in like a million years. It's one of those cards that is not going to hold its value after the fact. Rhythm of the Wild is a uncommon from Guilds of Ravnica that is still fetching, you know, $3 or $4. Again, a big reprint will bring it down, but how many of these are going to get out into the wild with it being a limited release secret lair? Don't get me fucking started on that. I'll probably talk about that in the second half of the video. It's hard to say how many of these will be out there. The Ozolith is like $30 right now, a competitive staple in older formats like Modern. Pretty good to include here. Again, will reduce the price upon it coming out because there'll be more of them in the wild, but again, how limited runners is going to be. And Berserk hasn't really had a proper reprint in a hot minute, the best part of half a decade, if not longer, from like Conspiracy 2, I think was the last time it got printed. So again, that will bring its price down. The older border ones fetch a higher price because it's the older border sort of nostalgia. But all of them are pretty sweet includes for Wolverine, both thematically and mechanically. I would love it if Berserk destroyed Wolverine and automatically regenerated him after he's gone Berserk, but I guess you can just hold up 2 mana, Berserk him, and then regenerate him. So the next time he would be destroyed, you tap him and remove him from combat instead, but he's already done all the damage to the opponent with the Berserk. And then we come to the final one, which is the one I'm kind of most excited for, but I think she might be so good that it might become a little bit boring. We've got Storm, Force of Nature, a 4 mana, but in rug colors, green, blue, and red. Legendary mutant hero, flying, vigilance. Ceaseless Tempest says, whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. Beyond that, we've got some incredible art. I think I love all of these. We've got Lightning Bolt with this sort of like, is this the Apocalypse era Storm? I love this though. Bolt was probably the worst card included here for the end deck, although giving Lightning Bolt multiple instances of Storm is probably pretty fun, but I do love this art. And then Storm's Will is a copy of Jeska's Will. Massive reprint there. Jeska's Will is one of those cards that when it's not being reprinted, it just creeps up and up and up. Ice Storm is a card that hasn't been reprinted in a million years. A 3 mana Stone Rain effect to destroy target land. This is interesting because Wizards of the Coast putting land destruction to a deck that can double, triple, or quadruple cast this through the use of Storm is kind of wild. Are they encouraging us to multiple strip mine our opponents? Sure, I'll do it, Wizards. If you ask that nicely, I'll do it. And then Aurora Borealis, cue Simpsons memes here, is the classic Storm card, Manamorphose. Now, interestingly, you want to get your Storm counter out in the first main phase by ticking it up, and then going to combat, slapping somebody, and then casting a spell with Storm after combat. Manamorphose is an interesting one because usually you cast it in your Storm sequence, and you get to use the mana from it to cast the next spell in your sequence to get the Storm count up. You can do that a bit pre-combat, but that mana won't be able to be used into the Storm spell because obviously you can't move to combat with it. But storming off with Manamorphose at the very minimum will get you a load of mana post combat. So if you hit and gain Storm on Manamorphose, and you've cast 3 spells in your first main phase, and you cast Manamorphose in your second main phase, you get 4 copies of Manamorphose. So you cast for 2 mana, get 8 mana, and draw 4 cards. Seems pretty decent. Storming off and casting Jeska's Will is going to be pretty nonsense as well. You can choose different modes for each stormed copy, I believe, that you put on the stack. Don't quote me on that. We probably need to check on that. Beyond that, obviously, there are certain spells that are very, very broken in Storm. Literally, the mechanic and the card. Extra turn spells are the obvious one. Giving a Time Warp Storm and casting 2 spells pre-combat and then casting it after will surely piss everyone off at the table, but it probably means you just won the game on the spot. I generally think Storm is the easiest not to go necessarily infinite with, but to take more game actions than the opponents to the point that it's kind of obnoxious. So how do you power her up beyond that? Well, there's a few things I'd suggest. Firstly, giving her double strike means you get 2 on-hit triggers. It's important that's not just going to combat, you have to deal combat damage. So double strike will give you 2 instances of the next spell having Storm. Storm does stack. So a Manamorphose with Storm with 1 spell cast this turn already means that when you cast Manamorphose, you get 2 more copies of Manamorphose for the spell cast previously. Beyond that, pre-combat, you do want to cast some cantrips and things. Manamorphose into 2 1-mana cantrips will get your Storm count to 3, which will allow you to do some crazy stuff in your second main phase. You want her to get through, so you want to give her Trample, preferably doing so with a card that draws you a card and replaces itself so you can have a fun old time in the second main phase. Crash through seems pretty good. Frustratingly, she's not in black, which is one of the big normal places to take Storm because it gives you the ability to cast things for free and really pop off with the bargain card that I'll put on screen now, or the other tutor that puts mana in your pool after you've tutored. So really, giving Storm to a tutor and finding multiple key pieces from your deck to combo off with is pretty good. And you don't get many cards that do that and put mana in your pool. I guess arguably just because Will would do that. But if you were to like Eldritch Evolution or Neoform after gaining Storm with Storm, God, I'm saying the word Storm a lot here. You should be able to sack one body and get multiple cards. So if you have Storm count of 2, you can Neoform for 3 creatures, and I'm sure there's got to be an infinite combo you can assemble from there too. And anything that gives you an extra combat as well is pretty dumb with Storm, Force of Nature, when she gives that card Storm. I want to build and play her, but I do think she might just be absolutely cracked in half. I think she might be miles better than anything else in the Secret Lair drop. I'm kind of a little bit terrified of how powerful she actually is. So, each of these drops are going to be limited print run, that's right. I don't even know if we have to get hold of these after we queue to try and get them. And on top of all that, they are $40 or $50, or in the case of if you live in Europe, 40 or 50 euros, or if you live in shitty old England, 40 or 50 pounds, which means that if you want to get the complete set, which is what I initially thought, I was like, I'm all in. I love Marvel Comics. I love comic books in general. I'm in for this. 2 X-Men as well, some of my favorite Marvel stuff. I'm in. But then I realized that to buy all 5 at non-foil is £200, which is the same price that I begrudgingly paid to get 4 Warhammer 40k decks, or 4 Doctor Who decks, or 4 Fallout decks. I didn't actually buy all 4 Fallout decks in the end. The point is, buying 4 precons like this at £200 is an expensive board game situation, or in the first place, but you are getting 100 cards per precon, and then you're getting, in the case of the Warhammer decks, for example, like 40 new cards per precon, plus every other card being reskinned with new art assets. In essence, the already price increased precons for the Universes Beyond products is such a good value proposition that by comparison, when we start to get Secret Lairs like this, it's not great. I am not keen, and it feels expensive and leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Now, when I tweet about this, people tell me that's not a fair comparison because, well, you can't compare it to the Warhammer decks because there was Warhammer Secret Lairs previously, and that's more of a comparable thing. Well, not really. Most Secret Lairs don't come with mechanically unique cards. That's normally reserved for the Universes Beyond stuff like this or Stranger Things. And it's funny to look back on Stranger Things because I remembered it being 2 Secret Lairs at £40, £50, but it's not. It was 1 Secret Lair with 9 cards every token. It's pretty crazy how good the Stranger Things Secret Lair value proposition was compared to these. So like picking up 1 or 2, it's still going to feel painful to spend £80 on 10 cards, or it's just a lot. It's just so expensive. And I know the argument is like you don't need these, but in theory, if we don't proxy, I'm very pro proxy, but if we're not proxying, you don't have access to these very unique and bespoke, and in the case of Storm, incredibly powerful game pieces to play without going in on the limited FOMO element. It's not really clear if these cards will show up in the later set either. We know the first Marvel set is called Spider-Man now, by the way. So I'm pretty sure most of these characters aren't showing up in the Spider-Man set unless it's a Spider-Man adventure where a lot of Marvel characters show up. But at that point, why are you calling it Spider-Man? It's a bit confusing for like a magic set. So are these mechanically unique for quite some time? We'll eventually get in-universe versions of them like we did for Street Fighter and Stranger Things and Walking Dead? Maybe, but it's unclear at this point when that will be, because that doesn't really help sell them, does it? It's much better to give that information after they've sold. It adds to the FOMO. I think the Secret Lairs themselves are gorgeous and relatively well executed. I think themes, mechanics, choice of art, the borders, I really like these. I think they're gorgeous. Storm in particular is just stunning. Like, this is after watching X-Men 97 this year, I'm in love with this. But I'm just frustrated that it's going to be so expensive to be a completionist or collector in this sense. If I want to pick these all up and build decks around them and create a Marvel battle box before buying any other cards or dipping into my collection, that's £200 before I get there. And that's not even a board game experience. The cards aren't even playable at that point. There's a lot more effort, time, and money going into getting that up and running, right? I haven't decided whether I'm buying these in November when they drop. I might just pick up Captain America and Storm. I don't know. I'm conflicted, but it is the day after reveals, and it's late on the Saturday, and I'm and now work. So maybe that's making me feel a bit more neg that it's late in the English time zone that I'm making this video. But I just feel frustrated, and I was wondering what other people feel too. Do you think this value proposition is there? Do you think it's worth it? A lot of these reprints, and I don't think this should really factor into the value proposition. I know it does, but a lot of these reprints will crash in price and won't be worth this later down the line as well. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are you getting these? Are you going to try and get them? Are you getting queues for them? Are you getting one? Are you getting all of them? I'd love to know in the comment section below. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe and comment down below if you've got any input for